What public official is responsible for prosecuting corruption in the schools and in government? And who is the prosecutor for serious campaign finance violations and official misconduct? Stay tuned. Share with us some of the changes that have been made in the operations of the District Attorney's Office since you've been in office.
Well, I think first and foremost, our efforts in the public integrity area have been a paramount priority. Another thing that's been going on that I didn't really fully appreciate until I was elected DA is the opportunities that current forensic sciences present to law enforcement and criminal justice to make the communities much safer, particularly from the most violent predator criminals. DNA fingerprint initiative, which would expand our database of DNA profiles from a discrete number of convicted felons, as it is now under California law, to what 30 other states have, which is an all-felon database.
How have things been received about your new Office of Public Integrity, and what kind of success have you had?
Well, we've had tremendous success, and I think it's been very well received by the people I care most about, which is the public at large, the body politic. They have every legitimate expectation that the money they give over in taxes will be returned to them in terms of governmental services delivered honestly and efficiently. Since then, we've achieved 60 convictions. That's 6-0. We have about 15 or so cases pending in court as a result of a criminal filing or an indictment. We have well over 100 active investigations that are out there. Plus, we've had 100 Brown Act or public meeting law compliance actions that we've undertaken, which I think had never been done before in Los Angeles County and probably hardly at all in the state of California. And I think that's been a great step forward to benefit the public in terms of achieving what all of us want, which is honest government. As I have indicated, last fall, our office is looking at certain allegations of interest to us in terms of individuals who play a role in decision-making, perhaps exacting campaign contributions for perhaps the awarding of contracts. We received the Laura Chick's report, her audit, suggesting perhaps less than desirable practices, at least in the Airport Commission. Mm-hmm. We've opened that up to a full investigation based upon her audit, and we will be using whatever tools are available to us to determine what is there, ranging from is this just inappropriate, to be frowned upon, heavy-handed campaign contribution fundraising, or something a little more sinister.
I guess you said that the mayor's not being investigated, but it centers around people that are appointed by the mayor.
I'm not going to get into the details of the investigation. Mm-hmm. We received information. We reviewed Laura Chick's audit. We were doing our own investigations and hearing things from others, and we're gathering information to evaluate what this is. And that's just one of many cases. This is one case out there. It's at a relatively early stage. It's at an investigative stage, and we'll sort it out like we have done in other cases. Other acts of corruption throughout the county which we're pursuing. Southgate, we've been very active there. We've gotten 5 or 6 convictions there. Our investigations led the public down there to wake up and throw the bums out through a recall effort. So we're not just let's not think LA City here. This is a countywide office, and we go where the corruption is.
When you said that Mayor Hahn wasn't under investigation, then you mean you haven't ruled him out. You haven't ruled it out entirely.
First of all, it's not exactly what I said. That was sometimes someone in the media asks you a question about someone, then you try and give them an explanation about what you're really trying to do, and they put their own spin on it.
Yes.
We're just doing our job, and we will pursue the evidence wherever it goes.
Speaking of campaign violations, I think our viewers would like to know just how difficult is it to tie down convictions for campaign violations? It seems like we hear about things being talked, but we never see any results. Is it difficult?
Well, actually, we've seen a lot of results in Los Angeles County. We have convicted a wide number of people, a significant number of people for campaign-related violations. But other convictions for individuals engaging in election earring where they didn't fulfill the proper disclosure in terms of being the source of some written material. We've convicted people for that, also in Southgate and other places. And so we, of course, you know about the 13 indictments we achieved.
I was just going to ask you about that. And that's taking on a very big name there. Mr. Kasdan's vice president was indicted. And
yeah, well, the firm's, the company's vice president was indicted, along with others who engaged in what we are alleging was a sort of money laundering scheme designed to defeat the campaign contribution limits of Los Angeles City. And we saw this as sort of a overarching conspiracy to defeat that regulatory scheme, as we filed felonies in that case. And
because of the conspiracy aspect.
Because of the conspiracy, that gives us jurisdiction to pursue it. And
is that the first time that conspiracy has been used?
First time it's been used in this context. Conspiracy to commit a misdemeanor is a felony under California law. The District Attorney's Office has exclusive jurisdiction over felonies. This is probably the first time the conspiracy laws, conspiracy to commit a misdemeanor or violate a scheme with misdemeanor sanctions, has been used to pursue this kind of corruption. And we're in court on that right now, and we'll see how it plays out. This is the most definitive report of its kind ever produced on the subject matter of Belmont. It takes a look at every single allegation, evaluates the evidence, and I must tell you, this is far more extensive than the report prepared by my predecessor, Mr. Garcetti, State Attorney General Bill Lockyer, in his report. The U.S. Attorney's Office looked at this in the Central District. They never published a report. They just sort of said we didn't find anything. And the city attorney at that time, James Hahn, published a report. All the reports that have been published don't add up to the depth and the quality of the analysis that we eventually published here. And I'm very, very proud of the fact that I said I would look into Belmont in a very thorough manner. It's exactly what we did. Now, some people may have expectations that weren't fulfilled, but I'm a process-oriented person. I expect my prosecutors to be process-oriented. The evidence, the ascertainable evidence, dictates our ultimate findings. We're not result-oriented thinkers.
How can the Inspector General dig out all this stuff with all of these exhibits and everything and have nothing be wrong?
Well, there's a lot wrong. The Belmont High School project, the Belmont Learning Center, was probably the worst public works disaster perhaps in the history of the country, at least in terms of school building. A lot went wrong over there. If the Inspector General has anyone they suggested should be indicted, we worked with us in the task force. They were full partners in our effort. And ultimately, at the end of the day, they agreed with our conclusion.
Well,
some people suggested, this is a terrible project, let's indict somebody. How about, let's see if there's any evidence of a law being broken within the statute of limitations. And some of the people say indict someone, they don't want to name who, they don't want to say what charge. And if any of your previous guests, the Inspector General or Mr. Patchett, are willing to come out with the names and the charge they would have filed, I'd be very interested. They were both given ample opportunity to do so because they were both part of this broad-ranging Belmont Task Force investigation, which, not because of them necessarily, but they did contribute to the process, resulted in a very thoroughgoing analysis of all theories of criminal liability.
Well, it was my understanding that Mr. Patchett, as head of the ad hoc Belmont Task Force, did recommend indictment and the grand jury.
Well, no, he didn't.
He did not.
He did not. The grand jury was used to obtain evidence, and he did not come up with any plausible theory of criminal liability that withstood any sort of scrutiny. Mr. Patchett has been asked publicly by numerous hosts and co-hosts and reporters, okay, Mr. Patchett, if you have this theory as to who's committed a crime, tell us. What is the crime and who did it? And he'll say, well, I really can't say without perhaps being sued. Well, if you have that little confidence in your legal theories, maybe you shouldn't be suggesting that people are in violation of the law. That's where you need a careful, cautious prosecutor who gathers evidence before he makes allegations.
Well, let me ask.
In the government, there's a phrase used to restrict access to information. That phrase, need to know. FullDisclosure.net, when you need to know the news behind the news.